All right, everyone, settle in. If you're hearing this, it means you've been cleared for introductory Holocron studies. Congratulations! That's actually a bigger step than it sounds. Today, we're not reviewing forms or meditation practices or lightsaber theory. Today, we're talking about history, specifically the Mandalorian Wars. Now, I know what you're thinking. Those come much later in the curriculum. And you're right, officially. But the Council teaches us that understanding the Force means understanding consequence. And there's no better lesson in consequence than this era. These holocrons are old. Some are damaged. A few are a little stubborn. But they still remember. As we go through them, I want you to listen carefully. Not just to what happened, but why it happened. Pay attention to the moments where people hesitated, and the moments where they didn't. This isn't a story about heroes or villains. Not at first. It's about Jedi trying to do the right thing and discovering that right isn't always clear until it's already behind you. So ask questions, stay curious, and remember, learning isn't about judgment, it's about understanding. So listen carefully to what the Holocron has to say. Let's begin.
The Mandalorian Wars did not begin with an invasion. They did not begin with fire. They began with silence. A silence held inside marble halls, inside chambers built for meditation, not urgency. Inside minds trained to feel the future, but unwilling to act on the present. While the galaxy burned, the Jedi Council waited. This is the story of that waiting, and of the one who decided it had already lasted too long. Long before the Republic called it a war, the Mandalorians were already moving, system by system, route by route, not with chaos, but with intent. Under the banner of Mandalore the Ultimate, the clans were no longer raiders. They were a unified war machine. Worlds along the Outer Rim fell quickly, not because they were weak, but because no one came to defend them. The Republic Navy was scattered. Politicians argued over borders while refugees filled the hyperspace lanes. Entire populations learned a new truth. The Republic could promise peace, but it could not enforce it. And still, the Jedi did not move. They felt the Mandalorians through the Force, a pressure spreading outward, system by system, like a storm that did not break. They debated endlessly. If they intervened, would they escalate the conflict? If they fought, would they become generals instead of guardians? If they won, what would victory cost? Their answer was restraint. The Council believed the Mandalorians would overextend, that the Republic would adapt, that time itself would solve the problem. But time does not heal all wounds. Sometimes it deepens them. And one Jedi saw that clearly. Revan was not impatient. That is the mistake history makes. He listened. He studied the reports. He watched the war from a distance and understood something the Council refused to accept. This war was not about territory. It was about dominance. The Mandalorians did not want planets. They wanted proof. Proof that the galaxy could be conquered. Proof that the Jedi, legends of power, could be broken. Every world the Jedi allowed to fall became part of that proof. Revan did not argue from emotion. He argued from inevitability. And when the Council refused him again, he stopped asking. Quietly at first. Revan spoke to other Jedi, not in the Council chamber, but in corridors, hangars, and half-empty temples. He didn't promise glory. He didn't promise survival. He promised responsibility. Some followed him out of belief, others out of fear. A few because they felt something darker stirring and trusted Revan to contain it. The Council named them reckless, idealistic, dangerous. They were right, but not for the reasons they thought. Revan stood before the Council one final time. He did not kneel. He did not plead. He informed them that he would go to war, that others would follow, that the Jedi Order would fracture, whether they approved or not. When he turned away, the Mandalorian Wars truly began. Not with a fleet deployment, not with a battle, but with the Jedi choosing action over doctrine. History would remember Revan as many things: hero, traitor, savior, destroyer. But in this moment, before the battles, before the betrayals, before the darkness, he was simply the first to accept the cost of doing nothing. And the galaxy would pay that cost in full.
Sorry. I think I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. Revan was definitely one of the central pieces of this conflict. There's no denying that. But before we dive too deeply into his story, I think we need to slow down a little. We need to look closer at who he was and at the people who stood beside him, challenged him, or were changed by him. Figures like Bastila Shan, Master Jar Leston, Dorjander Case, and even Zane Carrick. Their paths all crossed this moment in history, long before anyone realized how important they would become. So, I hope you've enjoyed this introduction from our lost holocrons. We'll continue next week, my Holocron Keepers. And remember, don't fall to the dark side. But if you do, count me in.